Hello, everyone. Welcome to Renegade Healer. I'm Kate Mooney. This is a hat trick video for me today. I'm kind of excited. I had a huge, long gap in my offerings, and then now this is my third one in less than a week. So got a little momentum going. My mother always called me her all or nothing baby, so I'm proving her right now. Today, so the last couple of posts I put up were about, really specific to healthcare system navigation and self-advocacy and advocating for yourself, a loved one. But today I'm going to take a little sidestep to talk about something that I'm super passionate about that is related, but not exactly, resiliency. So if you've come to any of my social media kind of pages, you'll see that I'm always kind of saying, I'm really passionate about resiliency. But this past weekend, I had an opportunity to speak with a group of yoga teacher in training students, and this was the topic. Resiliency was the topic that I discussed with them, and it dawned on me that in all the time now, it's been almost a year that I've been making these little videos and writing and putting up posts, and I've never actually stopped and really talked about resiliency the way I see it. So I thought this is a good time. Got my talk ready. So resiliency, I think, has become a passion for me for a number of reasons. Obviously, my own personal resilience has been put to the test in recent years, but my passion for it actually started a long time before that, and I think it has a lot to do just with my own experiences socially. Growing up at a very young age, I started to volunteer with young adults with physical and intellectual disabilities. And, in my close personal circles, I had some people struggling with mental health and just physical illness. And then as I got older and started working in social work, course, a lot of the individuals that I met were really facing some really big obstacles and difficulties. So I was constantly just immersed in this world of people with just these incredible strengths that often they didn't even really see themselves, but they were calling upon constantly to just keep going and to overcome their struggles. And I think without really being aware of it before I had a vocabulary for it, I just was really impressed and in awe. And I think it really gave me this inherent belief in people and what they're capable of. And just maybe I don't know if bird's eye view is not the right expression, but just from an outsider looking in, it seemed clear to me that there were a lot of skills that people were very successfully using to cope with really difficult situations. So that's sort of, I think, where the seed was planted. And then over the years, I also had some really funny and interesting experiences that really marked my own view of people in terms of, I don't generally take people's actions very personally. I think most of the time people do things because they're just focused on their own emotions and needs and the moment, and sometimes we make mistakes and we do things wrong. And that was actually really influenced by a university professor. I told this story this past weekend to the group I was with. It was a computing class in my first year of university, and the professor said that the reason there was so much pornography on the internet is because people are happy, horny, naked monkeys, which is a very odd thing to say and probably seems very odd to say here. But for me, the context of that is sometimes people really are just not complicated, just kind of doing their thing, and there's not a lot of thought put into it, and they're just following their instincts and not always appropriate. But that's not a reflection on anything that they think or feel toward you yourself. It's just their personal momentary decision making. And I think that that statement and that shift in my perception of people really combined with those earlier observations to allow me to be resilient, but also see where other people could have space and really develop the skills to overcome. So that's kind of, there's other stories, but I'll just leave it. I'll just stick with that for now. Okay, so I want to be clear, because I think we often we mistakenly define resilience as something that really ends up just putting more expectation on ourselves. So I think we tend to think of resilience as not allowing things to bother us, or not allowing difficulties to kind of get us down. And I think that's unfair. We're human, right? So I don't see it that way. I think resilience is about being real and recognizing that there are going to be things that really challenge you, and hurt and suck and knock you off your game. And you could be there for a while down. But resilience is about not getting stuck down. And even more so than that, it's about knowing in your heart and your core that even though you're down right now, you'll find your way back up. To me, that's resiliency, is that belief system. And the reason that it was such a important conversation this past weekend with the yogis is because in the yoga community, I think it's really important to recognize what our practice offers to us and as well to others. And we were using the parallel, 'cause in yoga, there's an inherent assumption that everything that you need is within you. So, if you go to a yoga practice, you should be encouraged to try to assume the postures and the shapes of the sequence that your yoga instructor is offering you, but also to recognize your own body's limitations and needs and differences, and yes, follow the recommendations and the suggestions that you're being offered, but more importantly, follow your own personal insight, and to key into that and to listen to those sort of quiet personal insights that you have. And that's the assumption, is that we all have that. And it's so beautiful, because I think it's true, it's a fact, and that's resiliency, because it's the same thing. We all have what we need within us, and it's universal. It's universal. So one of the things that's always troubled me is that when we talk about people that are struggling and need help to be more resilient or whatever, we tend to come back often, not always. Lots of people have brilliant ideas and are really articulate in supporting other people, but often the conversation kind of trickles back to building self-esteem and connecting with other people, like support of others, And when you're really lonely and lost and feeling like just really caught in the struggle, whether you have connections or not, you don't necessarily feel that you do. And if you don't feel that you do, they're as good as not there, because it's subjective. Feeling connected is subjective. It's not about what's actually there, it's what you feel is there. So saying to somebody, talk to somebody who cares about you, and they're not really sure that they have somebody who cares about them, it's not really a safe advice to give, right? And same like building somebody's self-esteem. When somebody is feeling really low, trying to get them to see kind of positive things or have a positive outlook on themselves is really hard. So it's not, in my mind, it's not safe advice. So for me, safe resilience, and trying to help foster safe resilience, is about just kind of dealing with the facts, the things that you and this person, or even just if you're just looking at yourself, the things that you can agree with. So there are things like, you have a good sense of humor. Maybe not. Not everybody is going to key into the same things and be able to agree with the same things, but some people are super stubborn. It's something I always viewed as a negative, but recently have come to very much see as a positive and a tool. One that's kind of undeniable, we all have our breath. We all have our breath. We all have varying degrees of patience, and where we don't have patience, we have our temper. And temper can get in the way, but sometimes it's also that's the fight in you too, right? That's the flame in you. Some people are just have a really strong will to stay in motion. Sometimes you can't even put a word on it. A friend of mine recently was talking about how her sense of resilience is just the fact that she gets up every day and keeps doing the same thing every day. So that routine, that commitment to just momentum, so these are just examples. The bottom line is, regardless of what you think you have or don't have, you can find something. If you got out of bed this morning, even if you didn't get out of bed this morning, but you've managed to, click on the internet and search the web, you have curiosity. Like, you can always find something. What's missing, and this is the part that I get really excited about, what's missing is not the skill. It's not the tools. It's the recognition and the practice, and then the conscientious use of those skills and tools more often to help yourself overcome. So when you shift to a mindset where you say, well, I do have it, I just have to kind of become aware of it and then try to be more deliberate in using what I've got in my difficult moments. It's kind of brilliant, beautiful, right? Like, I'm, having a horrible time at work, it's super, super, super stressful, but I have my breath. So a couple of times a day, I'm going to sneak into the bathroom for 5 minutes, and I'm going to do some really deep breathing. And these things, we have to really credit them for the powerful skills and tools that they are. And breath is probably one of the ones that is least valued and most powerful. When we conscientiously breathe, when we breathe deeply and effectively, when we still ourselves for that moment, and I'm not talking about meditation here, I'm just talking about breath, you really actually oxygenate the brain, oxygenate the circulatory system, calm the central nervous system. So it's not just sort of a kitschy thing that we tell each other to do when we're upset. It's actually a very powerful tool to helping you settle down, think more clearly, and continue to move through the challenges of your day, week, whatever. So for me, the reason that talking about resilience is so important is not about trying to teach people how to be resilient. It's about trying to make people recognize that they already are resilient, and then start to build a little bit of confidence and maybe even work in some new ideas or just new ways to use what they have, or just call upon it. Humor is huge. Humor is huge in resiliency, and sometimes we just need to be willing to be bold enough to kind of laugh at a situation and point to the humor in it. My last 5 years have been pretty dodgy, pretty you know, I think of myself as a very healthy, vibrant, active person, but on paper, I'm a mess. And it's, you know, the things that I've struggled with in the last 5 years, a lot of them aren't even related. They're just random, sort of unlucky health, and it could get pretty upsetting and hard. And I'm not gonna lie, there are times when I've had, you know, little pity parties and felt really like sorry for myself. But I also kind of, in my own mind, I use humor a lot, and I have a really visual sense of humor. So I have like comic strips that play in my mind, and in my mind, I'm the mole in Whack-A-Mole. And you know, maybe that's not funny to other people, but to me, it makes me laugh, and it puts it in perspective for me. And I just think, but I'm really stubborn, so I'm gonna win, you know. So that's resilience to me, and everybody's got that in them somewhere. So all I really want to do is throw that idea out there. It's a really quick and you know, not premeditated little chat, but I want to leave you today with a couple of questions. I want to ask you to think about what your skills or strategies, the bits, the little bits of yourself that you call on when you're struggling. You know, what keeps you moving. When you really try to think of what that is, and maybe put, you know, at least 2 down on a piece of paper, and then ask yourself, what can you do to cultivate those skills, or maybe boost something else that is within you but you're not really using it. So what are you doing, and what could you do to cultivate more? And that's just, you know, a little resiliency jumpstart. Take care. Bye. See you again soon.